Hello,
Hi.
welcome to EdTech Conversations, ideas worth sharing. I'm Sanjaya Mishra, and today I have with me Dr. Stephen Murgatroyd, author, futurist, and scholar, who has contributed over 40 books in various topics, including fictions. Dr. Stephen has been a pioneer in the field of open and distance learning, contributing at the Open University, United Kingdom, and the Athabasca University, Canada, in various capacities. At Athabasca University, he led the first online executive MBA program way before online education became popular around the world. He has served as consultant to multinational corporations, governments, and universities around the world. Thank you, Dr. Stephen, for joining me today to discuss about your new book entitled AI Unplugged, published by Routledge. To start with, please tell us about your book, especially what prompted you to co-author this work and who are the potential target audience of the book.
So the focus of the book is schools, teachers and students in K-12 school systems. And the book is the second book that comes out of our graduate teaching at the University of Alberta. We've been working around AI-related change transformation issues for 6 or 7 years now, with around about 60 to 70 school leaders a year. And we get them to do use cases of how to deploy AI and then use those as a way of exploring the issues. So we've been building this rich catalogue of ideas and experiences and uses of AI for some time. And then just to be kind of difficult, we've also involved our colleagues around the world in a conversation about this same thing. So right now, we're establishing a network of schools, school teachers, school students in Australia, New Zealand, Iceland, Finland, Norway, Canada, and Singapore, who are all together working on how can we really use AI in a way that enhances human flourishing and promotes well-being and learning. So it's kind of part of a journey we've been on, Dr. Couture, who's my co-author, and I, for quite some time now.
Yeah, I have gone through the book and I find there are several fascinating ideas, and I would like to talk about some of those things and listen from you about some of those things, particularly to highlight the significance of the book for the readers. And particularly those who are acquainted with my work, particularly in my network, to spread the work. One of the important ideas I found you have emphasized in the beginning about the agency of the student and the teachers in the context of AI, and particularly in the resource poor countries. How do you see the role of AI and changing the agency of the students and teacher?
Well, do remember that there are parts of Canada that are poor resourced jurisdictions as well. We call them indigenous communities in the north. One of the big ideas that's informed a lot of what we do is the realization that students know more about AI than most teachers do. And also students are very, very critical of what AI is able to do for them. So one of the things we did in preparation for the book, and it features in the book, is we worked with black students in the Toronto School District who were on a black leadership program which Toronto's been running for a long time. And we had them, excuse me, we had them look at what they were doing and what their peers were doing. And then we had them have a conversation with their teaching colleagues about how they saw the use of AI for them as powerful and helpful, and gave them more of a sense of understanding and deepening their knowledge. I know there's a big conversation about cognitive offloading, but these students were saying, actually, if we use this intelligently, we can actually enhance our cognitive understanding and development. So we worked with students, and one of the things that we saw was when you give students agency, we've seen this in lots of projects we've run, and you give them both agency and responsibility, they actually enhance the system. And then if you get them to partner with teachers so that it's a co-creation, a collaboration, then great things can happen. If teachers impose or students impose, then we have some big power kind of issues. But co-creation is the name of the game, and I think that kind of connects to the idea of AI as a co-intelligent partner in learning and well-being. I think the idea, a lot of kids use it as a big Google search engine, and it's a heck of a lot more than that. So we were training the kids to think about the co-creation of their future with created AI resources, and that kind of struck a nerve with us and with them.
One of the key things that I noted, and you highlighted about this cognitive offloading issue as a challenge of using AI in the school or in any education at any education level. Now, how these students were dealing with this cognitive offloading issues? Any example you would like to share with our viewers?
Well, the reason I'm wearing a jacket and a shirt and trying to look smart is I'm on my way to a presentation to a school district, the Edmonton Catholic School Board, and I'm taking some kids along with me. But they're concerned about, AI and plagiarism and cognitive offloading and all this stuff. Now, one of the heroes of instructional design is Philippa Hardman. And Philippa's been really digging into the research that shows certain kinds of uses of AI do create cognitive offloading, but other uses of AI enhance cognition. And so it's a design challenge for how we think about learning and assessment. And all this preoccupation with cheating just gets in the way of understanding. So we have a design challenge, which is how do we design learning to fully leverage AI, but also to enhance human understanding and growth. And so there is a kind of methodology for that we can explore. Philippa has developed an approach called DOMS, which we feature in the book. But basically, you can use AI to start thinking about an assignment or a task, and then the real work begins of now you criticize the AI resource that's been produced, enhance it, change it, but show us what you've done, and now reflect on that learning from AI plus your own work. What does that tell us about you and your understanding of this topic? And that process, basic use, analysis, reflection, actually enhances cognition more than simply using traditional assessment forms. So part of the message of the book is if you really want to do good work with AI, you're going to have to reimagine teaching, learning, and assessment.
So essentially, the AI tools can be appropriately utilized to mitigate the issues of cognitive offloading if the design is done well, and largely it's using AI as a co-pilot or co-agency together collaborator rather than an assistant.
Right. I mean, the phrase that Ethan Mollick, who is a pioneer of the use of AI in education, uses is a co-intelligent partner. Over the years, I have hired, 30 research assistants. I now have 27 working for me full-time at a cost of $20 a month. I have AI agents, I have AI reviewing capabilities, Grammarly. And the gift is, for those of us who write a lot, reference checking systems. Oh, what a relief that is. Particularly for this book, but the other one I published earlier had 4,500 APA 7 references, each of which had to be verified. You know how long that takes by hand. It took 18 minutes by using an AI system.
Yeah, one of the important things that you touched on the book, and I found it very fascinating, because as a learning designer myself, I think about design all the time, and there is a concept called design justice, and coming from my own issue of social justice in education, I find this idea of design justice quite fascinating. Could you just elaborate as a teaser for the viewers who would be interested to read the book, because this is something very interesting and unique in a way to talk about design as design justice.
So we're teaching right now, we teach tomorrow night on our graduate studies program, and our focus this time is on AI and indigenous ways of knowing. And we're talking to indigenous instructional designers in Australia, New Zealand, the Sami people in Finland, and some colleagues in Paraguay. And that we're all saying, I mean, and the Canadian scholars are also saying, look, a lot of our instructional designs are based on colonial kind of ways of thinking, are based on behaviorist models of how learning takes place, and are based on catalogues and factual memory, as opposed to engaging from the learner's experience and culture, and from the learner's community experience and culture, how that community learns. So indigenous knowledge is essentially a form of storytelling. And there obviously there is indigenous writing, but a lot of the elders that I spoke to, and in preparation for this book, I ran workshops with elders, close to 1,000 elders over the last 2 years, exploring how they thought about learning and how they thought about instruction and assessment in school. And I've worked very closely with, here in Canada, with what we call Treaty 8, which is northern parts of Manitoba, Saskatchewan and Alberta. And I'm working with the superintendent of Treaty 8 schools right now. Their kind of view of instructional design is, it is a form of colonialism. And so, in your country and in other parts of the world, the decolonialization of the curriculum is a big conversation.
Yes.
But we wanted to focus it not on the curriculum, but on the instructional design experience. So there's a lot of work going on around the world of how we can leverage AI to be a storytelling resource, to be an image creation resource. And so we've worked with indigenous young people, with indigenous elders and teachers, to explore what a learning management system would look like if it was indigenous in its design. And there's a team out of Victoria, British Columbia, who built that platform that we've been using here in the city of Edmonton for some time. And I think the idea of design justice is that the lens you bring to an instructional task you have has to be multicultural, has to be conscious of the different social classes in that group, and has to reflect the underlying commitment to inclusion and equity. So it is a big idea. It's not necessarily new, it's been around for some time. There's a lot of writing here, and there's a lot of good practice, particularly in the K-12 sector.
Yeah, this is no, you rightly touched about the issue of inclusion, and it goes with the inclusion, access, particularly accessibility with for also for people with disabilities and others, um, including indigenous people, including people from different ways of knowing, a more holistic way, and also to look at with AI now. I think what I feel from reading from your work is that you can help design something appropriate to a group of people or a small community to align your instructional design to meet the expectation of the community as such. So that's the kind of possibilities are there. So I think it's a much broader area, but that
Yeah,
leads
and
me to
it also links to the fact that, if you look at certain jurisdictions in the world, and Canada's one of them, kids in high school are very concerned about getting high grades to get to the best universities, all this nonsense. They hire tutors, and tutors are very expensive relative to the income of most families. But now everybody can have a tutor. Everybody can access a chatbot. And they're getting easier and faster. And, just look at Google Notebook as a way of creating a resource to support learning. And a lot of that is free. And so I think the other side of all this is to think about what does it cost to deploy AI effectively. We worked with the Calgary Catholic school system, helping them think about what technologies should they deploy with kids. And the answer is simple, Magic School and Google Notebook. You don't really need a lot more than those two things.
absolutely.
And both of those have significant free elements. You can pay for access to more functionality, but actually you don't need a lot of the extras. So one of the opportunities that AI affords us is more equity of access to support. Now, that assumes you can afford the internet in the first place and you have the technology to access that. And I live in Canada, which has the second most expensive telecom system in the world after Japan. So, it costs money. Even for a small family use of this stuff, you're talking about proper money in terms of telecom access, not necessarily the AI technology itself.
Absolutely, that's very critical. Let me shift to one very important topic right now, which I think based on this question coming to my mind based on your uh, futurist hat, because you have been a futurist. You talk about the different types of futures and leadership and so on and so forth. From that context, when I looked at your reference to the Delors Commission report and the 4 types of learning that it emphasized, rather than looking at the UNESCO's new report, which was released in 2021, and it talked about reimagining our futures together, a new social contract for education. I thought that I must ask this question to you because one was the UNESCO report was talking about the future, but you have based your analysis and discussion on a more fundamental aspects of learning, which was given by the Delors report. I just want to hear your ideas about these things. What you were thinking about when you were adopting the Delors report, and what was your idea related to the UNESCO report on education that of our futures, reimagining in the social contract issues?
So, the Delors pillars were pioneering, written in 1999, intended to guide the world in education for the following century. So learning to be, learning to do, learning to work together, and so on. I mean, and we thought that was pretty profound. We actually took a position paper to the cabinet of the Alberta government, who told us they didn't do existential work as a government. And we said, actually you do, but you don't do it consciously. So during the consultation in the last 2 or 3 years, the OECD asked us and our students to be part of those consultations. So we had students, high school students, junior high students. We had a couple of thousand teachers engaged in a conversation about what the new pillars might look like. And so, particularly given the tension between learning and well-being, which we see as pretty significant, our new kind of work is focused on learning and well-being together, because you can be very efficient as a learner but have all sorts of mental health challenges. And around about 30% of Canadian high school students are diagnosed with anxiety, depression or stress. So we're trying to balance these things out, and we found that the new UNESCO pillars, the revised Delors pillars, a very helpful framework for having that conversation. So that's why we've kind of focused on those. And I think the kind of tension between learning as an efficient thing as opposed to learning as a well-being process comes out in the way in which the OECD has rewritten those pillars. So we've been consulted and heavily involved. Riel Miller, who used to be the head of Foresight at the OECD, is now a good friend and colleague of J.C. Couture and myself, and has written a review of this book actually. So he was very involved and instrumental in that work too.
Now, with these new developments of AI, certainly we need to reimagine education. That's very clear for every one of us. In that context, what are the skill sets you think the educators, policymakers might need to reimagine education, and especially to adopt generative thinking?
Well, good question, Sanjaya. One of the things to say is we've seen nothing yet. So AI that we're looking at now, I was talking to a superintendent of schools in Coquitlam in British Columbia. He was saying what you need to remember is AI this morning is the best it's ever been. And you can say that to yourself every day for the next 30 years. But we've seen nothing yet. We have 3 big developments coming fast. One is artificial general intelligence, which is when AI is smarter than the smarter people on the planet in any subject at any time. The second is quantum computing, which is coming very fast, much faster than we anticipated. And that's just a different mindset. Computers right now are very linear. So they take one hypothesis at a time and kind of go down that narrow pathway till they get to the end. Quantum can do 25,000 hypotheses simultaneously in a second. And so not only is it fast, it's comprehensive and thorough. So drug discovery is going to be completely transformed by quantum. And the third development that we need to take into account is humanoid robots. Now, we've been in this conversation for some time, and there's been promises of these things. The big promise was, 2015, every household will have a humanoid robot. No. But they are getting smarter and better. And at the Eden conference, a big online learning, open education conference in Europe last year, the number of papers presented showing how robots were being used in classrooms, there were about 12 of those papers. So I think we're going to see the combination of those things creating super teachers who can teach anywhere, anytime, 24/7, and be better or as good as the best teachers we have. So that's what when I say we haven't seen anything yet, that's what I mean. Whether we need to deploy them is a different question. Just because we can doesn't mean to say we should. And so I think there's going to be an anxious conversation about the business model of what schooling looks like. Because right now it has a learning functions, but it's primarily a child-minding function. Where we drop kids off at 8 o'clock in the morning and hopefully we don't see them again till 4. And in that time, we're supposed to do creative things with these kids. We won't need to do any of that in the future unless we choose to do so. And I think we're going to have some difficult conversations about the relationships between technology, students, and adults, and community. And we need to embrace some pilot projects, some lighthouse projects that show what the possibilities are. Most systems, most school systems, and even less likely higher education systems will not change at all because they're incapable of changing. Universities are just simply incapable of significant change. Yeah, I mean, read my other book I published in January.
They will take time.
But I think there's, and what I'm talking about this afternoon at the school board, is the old methods of trying to stay on top of things and control this are gone. So the question becomes one of how do we create human flourishing through our educational supports and services that enrich the lives of kids, families, and community. And just doing what we've always done and expecting different results is not going to work.
One of the things that resonated from the book, also, particularly when I was reading the foreword of the book, and the example from the Finnish system given, it's not the Finnish system got transformed not through a revolutionary process, but through a huge emphasis on the building the ecosystem, building the conversation around teachers, communities, and therefore they have built a robust system of education. I think that's something resonated quite well with me, even though I am a very pro-technology person. And at the same time, what I got from your book is that you are promoting something that a precautionary or a cautionary approach to adopting technology, evolutionary technology to transform education through a conscious approach, what I will call a conscious collective approach to transform education. So those things really resonated with myself, and I was interested to talk to you because of those kind of things. But having we are almost completing our time. Tell us few things, 2 or 3 critical things which I may not have asked you, or which you would like the readers of the book to focus and think for themselves beyond what we are talking today, or beyond what you have articulated in the book, but you want readers to think.
Well, the first is that I think we should have a much more open conversation with parents, teachers, and students together in the same room at the same time. We did that in the city of Calgary. We ran an open public meeting with the Catholic School Board there. We had a terrific conversation. And the kids are as concerned as the adults in the room were about some of the issues about bias, hallucination, equity, security, privacy, those kind of things. So the first thing is we need to have better conversations with the right people in the room. Right now, some jurisdictions just ask their chief technology officer to make all these decisions. That's the last person you should ever have these conversations with. You should always begin and end with students and teachers, and preferably parents. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we should stop this conversation about cheating. Cheating has been going on since the Ming Dynasty, so stop it. Now get involved in asking the question, given what kids are doing, given what AI can do, how do we enable fantastic work using technology for assessment of learning and for learning. So I think it's time to stop the kind of panic stuff. And it's still there. And the third thing I would say is, I ran a class last week teaching on the MBA at Athabasca, which, as you mentioned, I created in 1993-94. We had a presentation from Pembina Pipelines, Director of Logistics. And she explained how the company has started to deploy AI agents, AI systems and support. And what they did was ask their staff to come in and show them how they used AI at home, at work, just come and play. I think we should have more playtime with kids saying, come on, show us what you can do so we can all learn together. And whenever I do a kind of show and tell about what AI agents can do, teachers and school administrators just sit there in shock and awe. But kids are using it. My granddaughter taught me how to do this. She's 15. So, let's stop being panicky. Yeah, there are issues about cybersecurity and privacy. We're in the middle of a massive ransomware attack on Canvas right now. 9,000 institutions around the world. And that affects my ability to teach tomorrow. But I think we should actually encourage play and share a lot more than we're doing now. I have 22 AI agents working for me every day. Deloitte's, who I was with last week, told me that candidates for interviews are turning up with their AI agents with them to take part in the conversation. One actually just sent their agent, didn't bother coming themselves. So we're in a different world. Let's accept that it is. Let's play, and let's understand, and let's learn together. I think that's the big message of the book.
Thank you, Stephen, for sharing your ideas. Thank you for the book. I wish the book reaches nooks and corners of the world, particularly in the school systems around the world, and your ideas are received by as many as people as it should be. And I would recommend the viewers and people in my network to grab a copy of your book, read it, question it, and also try to, as the title of the book says, AI Unplugged, I would like to say that they should also look at how AI could unplug education today, liberate education, not education liberating human being. We also probably need to liberate education itself from the shackles of the rigidity that we have kept in the assessment or in the design or whatever we call it, in the form of from the beginning to the end. There are always rigidity in the system. Hopefully more openness will come in, that is required in the age of AI. Thank you very much, Stephen. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Stay well.